Yes. Oh, we're on the red, but you wasn't on the red before. Let me. That's better. I think it was because I had my phone in my pocket, and that's kind of like the um, that's like the my phone is literally my Wi-Fi router because I use my mobile data to connect up. So what is going down? Welcome back to a little bit of a different stream. So um, I kind of had well, I was actually live on Facebook doing a bounce set. Just felt like playing some late night tunes, and I got a phone call sort of not long after I started the stream. So I actually cut the stream to answer it. But in today's YouTube stream, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to take a little bit of a look back down memory lane at kind of my production journey. Um, so I'm gonna more focus on like since my sort of like bounce era, where I've like really started to take things like more seriously. However, I will go and show you my first ever track, which was a hardcore track. Um, there was kind of like the hardcore era where I did like the remixes of Darren Styles with the Layman, and they were great tracks. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Baby I'll Let You Know, that was an absolute slammer. That was kind of for me like when my production was just starting to improve, and then I did the sort of like the hardcore flip of the Georg Schmid Wifey, which was I just basically took his version, sped it up to the hardcore speed, and then just added some of my own elements to it. So a big chunk of that work was mainly from Georg Schmid's original version, but I just kind of wanted like a hardcore version to play in set, so I just did like a little edit, sort of like a little revamp of his, just to make it kind of fit like a hardcore set. And don't get me wrong, it was a really good tune, but obviously it just wasn't me like making a full on remix, if you like. So I thought what we'd do is we'd take a little bit of a look down memory lane, and we'll talk about some of the tracks, and we'll talk about some memories. And there's some tracks that I did like not too long ago, and I'll sort of tell you like my thoughts on them, and like whether I'll like send them to be released and stuff like that. So I think what we'll do first is we will start right at the beginning, and we'll go and I'll show you the first ever track that I ever produced. And yeah, it's quite shocking. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's quite shocking, but at the same time, it's not horrible. It's a bit of a tough one because there was some good elements there, but there was just that there was a you can definitely see where obviously like things have improved, if that makes sense. So I'm just scrolling all the way to it now. You won't be able to see it because I haven't changed the screen over yet, but I'm gonna change it over in just a second. But there was like a whole hardcore era. I might play you some of them. We'll just see how we go. But I'm just gonna swap the screen over to Google Chrome. So yeah, so I'm on my SoundCloud now, and if I scroll right to the bottom, so I think so it was like three. It says 3 years ago. It was too like late. I think it was I think we started the track late 2019, and then I think we released it like early 2020, and it was a remix of Axwell I Found You. Myself and MC Freestyle, we did this one. So we did this together, and this was when we made this track. This was like it wasn't the first time that I'd been on FL Studio, but it was like the first time I'd properly been on it. So I think like prior to this, I think a couple of years prior to this, or maybe a year or so prior to this, I think I searched either into YouTube or Google like how to make a remix, and they recommended like FL Studio at the time, and I installed like a demo, and I just like was on the page for ages, like on FL for ages, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just wondered like, how did you like actually like, make any sounds, and I couldn't get any sounds to play, and I just thought this is actually really mind blowing, and I thought like if this is what like, like big DJs and producers are using, like there's no wonder, that I'm not gonna be able to use it. So yeah, so myself and MC Freestyle, we got together to make a hardcore version of Axwell, I Found You. And a lot of this track, a lot of it came from, like a lot of the input came from me, but a lot of the creation at the time came from Freestyle, because obviously at the time it was Freestyle's FL Studio, and he had already had like a real slight bit of experience with FL Studio, so he already knew a little bit about the program, or that time he knew a lot more than I did. So I was just kind of telling him from my experience of listening to hardcore, like, look, this is what I kind of want in the track. So I'll let you have a listen. So already I think the bass just kind of sounds out of key, and I don't like the bass sound at the time. I thought it sounded banging, and it just sounds out of key. The piano, it sounds like we've just used dance piano, I think, and it doesn't even like sound like a nice piano. One thing I do actually like about the track is there's a bit of power in the kick, but I don't know if the kick actually fits this track as such. So I like the actual layout. So I like the way it was made, like the structure. So I liked that kind of like intro where it kept kind of cutting to that piano, and then now it's kind of like dropped and the pianos come in. Only thing I would have probably done is maybe faded the piano in, just like ever so slightly. I think the piano needs something underneath it though at this point. The vocal is not even in time. The pitch of the vocal is just completely out of key. I do like the breakbeat though. So yeah, the vocal's just completely out of time. It sounds like it's a chipmunk that's singing it, and I'm just not all that keen on it in that sense. I like the idea of changing from a piano to more like a rave stab, but I don't like the sound of the rave stab. Or should I say more into like a synth lead? That build up came in off time. And then the drop just kind of went to something like really flat. So that is essentially it. That was like the first ever track that I ever sort of like wrote with the freestyle. And I remember at the time like was quite buzzed, and we actually put it online as well. Like we put it on Facebook and stuff. And at the time, like people was actually like quite shocked at how good it was to like for a first track. Like they said that like when they made their first ever track, it sounded a lot sort of like it sounded a lot shitter than what we had just done there, like for our first ever track. And I think like I've just had like I don't want to say like I don't know whether to call it musical knowledge, but because I've had like such a fascination and interest for many types of music like over the years, and obviously grown up listening to a lot of dance music, like I think I just genuinely like I say, when it came to like sort of giving input on the track, it was almost like I really knew what I wanted, if that makes sense. Like I kind of in my head I kind of knew like how the remix like was gonna sound, but it was just at that point I didn't know how to turn it from sort of out of the brain onto the actual project itself. And I think the input obviously it was good input, and I think that was a big help in obviously why the track obviously did well itself. We'll jump on to the second track now. This track, it wasn't physically like the second track that we ever made. I think we was working on some other stuff, and I was doing a couple of tracks with Freestyle at the time, and we had a little duo going on, Freestyle and Noble, and I think this was kind of at that point where I wanted to transition away from the MCing a little bit, and start focusing more on the DJing. And I think this was kind of when sort of I think this was sort of when it was sort of like I wanted sort of like the freestyle and Noble. So like freestyle would be like the guy who would host the set, like you would MC and then I would DJ, and then we'd like play our own productions. But for a sad reason, freestyle just obviously had other things going on his mind, and before our duo, I suppose if you like, it ever really took off and went anywhere, it kind of came to the sad end where we just we just weren't getting the projects finished, and I was wanting to move forward and keep learning and keep working on these tracks, and I was proper buzzed about it, and it was it was like a real step up in the game for me, and stuff like that. It was it was a proper buzz, and I just wasn't getting that, sort of waiting for freestyle to obviously come back and work on projects. And a lot of them at the time, they were kind of they were on his FL Studio. So like when I was like at home, like during the week and stuff, I couldn't work on these tunes, and it was kind of like frustrating me and aggravating me. And that's when I took the move to try and get a version of FL Studio, and I managed to crack one. And I began to start working on a freestyle and Noble track for myself completely at home. I was working on this one myself, and freestyle just sort of, this time he was just giving a little bit of input, and that way, you know, I could work on it, and he didn't need to be there, if that made sense. So we did this track, Freestyle and Noble, featuring Leeton, which is the layman, and the track was called "Now It's Time to Say Goodbye," and it was an original idea, but it was going to sample sampled a melody from another tune, and the idea of it was to sample the main piano from Martin Solveig, Hello, and the joke behind it was like this track was supposed to be Goodbye instead of Hello, but it was to sample the same piano, so it was kind of to be like a bootleg that would sample the same piano, but we decided to put our own words in it instead. So I got I got the layman and I got Freestyle to say some vocal words in it, and it was the first experiment with a donkcore track. So it was it was a hardcore track, but there was like a donk behind the hardcore bass, and this is what it sounds like.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
Pack a suitcase and get out. You're not wanted around here.
It would be best if you left.
Pack a suitcase and get out.
Yeah, so now it kind of just sounds like one of them horrible speeded up donk tracks, you know, where you've got some clown who thinks, do you know what, I'm going to play bounce music at the same speed as hardcore. That's kind of, because the donk kind of overpowers the hardcore bass, so it just sounds like...
You're not wanted around here.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
It would be best if you left.
That's it, I've had enough. You're not wanted around here. That's it, I've had enough.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
You're not wanted around here.
It would be best if you left.
That's it, I've had enough.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
Pack a suitcase and get out.
It would be best if you left.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
That's it, I've had enough.
So the actual bass is not even in key with the piano. The build up was awful. It sounded distorted, and it don't work. It clearly, I like it. Like the general idea of the track, could work. And I reckon, like, if I was to go back and like remake that project, but you know, like just go about it completely differently, but use the same idea of like a track called "Now It's Time to Say Goodbye," I reckon I could do like quite a decent. I reckon I could do like quite a decent idea of it. And I think I might maybe go back and revisit that idea at some point in the future, but do everything original. So, you know, make an original melody for it and stuff like that, and see sort of where we go from there, and try and get some like vocal of people, you know, like some form of like, there's a reason why someone's got to say goodbye. But yeah, that was essentially it. But this was the first project that I sort of more like fully worked on myself, apart from like freestyle and the layman like sending vocals over to put into the tune. So it was the first time where I was just having a little play around, and I was constantly on like the thingy. I was on like a video chat to freestyle at the time, I think, as I was making it, and I was like like, yeah, I'm gonna do it like this, and he's like, yeah, that sounds good, and it was hard to hear on the phone, and I think he was just sort of agreeing at the time, and but yeah, it doesn't sound that good. I'll be completely honest. Yeah. Let's swiftly move on from that one, and we move on to a track I did called "Talk to Frank," and this was, I mean, I can't even really call this. I can't even really call this a track, but essentially what I did was I took a Talk to Frank advert and took the audio from it and sampled a section that says, "The more you mess with cannabis, the more it messes with your mind. To find out more, talk to Frank." And then I just literally found a Frenchcore track off of YouTube and downloaded it and just literally put the vocals onto the track, and it just turned it into a little bootleg, and it just put it on SoundCloud. And it was a Frenchcore track, and I never did anything with it. I never played it anywhere. I did another one as well. It was from the Aviva advert, and it was like it was that for the last time. Do you know I don't know, the code to something, or and then the guy goes, "I don't know, nobody knows." And I did that as well, but I don't think I ever like put it on SoundCloud. I think it just, I did it on the iPad, and I think it just stayed on the iPad, and I never did anything with it. But I'll give you a quick little. So the sample's here now.
The more you mess with cannabis, the more it can mess with your mind.
It was kind of like, I suppose, when I just first discovered Frenchcore and stuff like that, and I just thought, do you know what, like, it's really weird because it's like real fast and heavy, and I just thought, do you know what, just for I only made it for fun, but I just thought at the time, yeah, why not? So that was that.
To find out more, talk to Frank. With your mind. To find out more, talk to Frank.
So yeah, the more you mess with cannabis, the more it can mess with your mind. To find out more, talk to Frank, and that was like literally that was it. It was just them two samples. Just I repeated them over this Frenchcore track, and then we move into a new era of my production, and this was where the Noble and Hoodie. This is where the Noble and Hoodie era came in, and this was where I set out, and I actually started believe it or not, I started a very short-lived record label. Well, it probably never even was a record label, but I started up this idea, and it was going to be, it was a label called Banging Anthems, and I'd love to bring it back. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to bring it back, but the idea was it was a label that was going to be set up, and it was supposed to be aimed at like up and coming producers. So like the idea of it was like to share their it was to share their productions out, and it was like because at the time obviously I wasn't clued up about fully starting like an actual physical like label where you'd buy tracks off of a website. It was more just like we'll put them on, we'll put them up on YouTube, and we'll stick a free download link in, and it'll just be a way like to get exposure. And I sort of started the page up, and I did a few of my own productions under that was going to be on the Banging Anthems, and then it just never really took off and went anywhere because I just wasn't really that. I was still very much a learning producer myself, and it just wasn't really, it just wasn't really the right time for it. I don't think, but I would love to bring it back, and I guess like never say never. But there was this new era where myself and a guy called Hoodie, who I no longer associate with, and you know, I'm not one to go on and like, you know, cause loads of drama to the scene and stuff like that. But I really do recommend that you give this person a wide berth as well, because he threatens to rape women. He stalks women. He says that black women deserve to be raped, and he plays like online poker games. And he's racist and he's offensive in chat rooms, and he's just not a nice person whatsoever. So we gave him a wide berth, and I stopped making tunes with him ages ago. You know, a good few years ago now, and I just don't wish to associate with him. But when we were making tunes together, we had a couple of good tunes actually, and this was for me where my production was starting to improve. Like I was picking up a few more tips, and the first one was a track called "I'm Rushing Into La La Land," and it sampled 3 samples. So the first sample was a classic track from Bump called "I'm Rushing," and if you've not checked it out, I recommend that you do go and check it out, because it's an absolute classic tune. I'd love to do something with using that sample again going forward, or maybe even do some form of like I'm rushing into La La Land, or something like that. It'd be an absolutely crazy thing. The second sample came from Green Velvet, and I can't remember if his track was called La La Land, but there was a couple of vocal samples that I took from that I took in a couple of samples that I took of the vocal. So one of them was I'm gonna rearrange my brain and head down to La La Land, and then there was another sample which has been sampled in a lot of tracks, in like hardcore and like bounce and hard bounce, and it goes like something about them little pills, them thrills, and something to kill 1,000,000 brain cells. And what I remember very distinctly about this track, I was playing around at home and I was creating the tune, and it was the first time that I'd actually timed like a vocal up. So obviously when I did the like Talk to Frank, and when I did like the Now It's Time to Say Goodbye, they were just like people speaking, so you wasn't really having to time that up as such. Whereas with the Rushing Into La La Land, you needed to time it up. And I remember it was the first time that I got this, like, I got the bit where it says something about them little pills, them thrills, to kill 1,000,000 brain cells. I remember getting that in time with the hardcore bass, and I just remember absolutely buzzing that I was like, I've actually done it. And I remember like sending a little clip over to Huddy, like, I've just done this on our track, like, look, I've got the vocal sounds sick in time. And at the time, obviously, when we was pally, it was like, yeah, this sounds mint, and I sent it over to Freestyle, and you know, I was proper buzzed at the time. And then I remember, like, you know, we put a clip of it up we put the clip up on SoundCloud, and someone texted me and said, like, you know, like, where have I heard a similar track before, or something like this, or where did you take that, you know, or there was something about it. Where you could tell it was like a jealousy kind of thing, because obviously, like, it was actually sounding like, well, this, you know, it actually sounds quite decent, and then obviously, it just, you know, it lacks, obviously, like when you listen back now, but at the time it was like that. Yeah, we've, you know, it was like that. Yeah, we've got the tune in, you know, we've got the vocals and stuff in time, so this is what it sounds like. Nice hardcore bass coming through. It's coming up now. Yeah, so I think at the time I was just buzzed that I got it in time, and I don't think I was really at that point. I wouldn't have known that it was out of key. I was just buzzed, obviously, at the time that I'd got the vocal in time, and you know that it was just going at the speed of the hardcore track. I think that's all that buzzed me at the time. Even though I can obviously tell now that it sounds too high pitched for the track. So the strings they sounded really nice in this.
Rearrange. I'm going down to La La Land. I'm going down to La La Land.
And the third sample I forgot to tell you about. So the third sample is the melody from Sash with Ecuador. And at the time, I was debating, do I call it Rushing into Ecuador or Rushing into La La Land? And then I went with La La Land in the end. At the time, I thought that the Ecuador was probably like the most famous track. So I was trying to avoid copyright, I think, at the time. Melody sounds really nice, but it needs something like behind it. Possibly like strings or something coming back in. So that was that. And then I'm rushing into La La Land. Freestyle did a D&B version of it, and he hadn't got the vocal in time, which always kind of annoyed me about that. And yeah, it was obviously just yeah, it was a little bit gutting, but I'll give you a quick little play of it.
No, I'm rushing just a little bit too fast. I know I'm rushing just a little bit too fast.
So obviously the piano's not in time with the break beats.
Something about those little pills, the real,
And the vocal's not in time.
real, they ill, the brain still.
And yeah, the Ecuador bit's in time, but the piano, he sampled that out of the actual Congress 40 Miles record, and he didn't get the sample. He didn't time stretch it to the speed of the D&B tune. And then I think this was the final ever. I think this was the final ever Freestyle and Noble track. I think this was a remix of Bang Your Head Off, which I think was a recon track, and I think it was originally. I think there's been a few versions of it, but it kind of went into kind of like a D&B. It was like a jump up. It was like a hardcore jump up. So this was it. I always loved the first bit of this track. But it just went really weird after that. And that kind of wrapped up the era for Freestyle and Noble. And then I think we kind of have like the final sort of Noble and Hoodie track. Although we did some other tunes as well, and I think I took them off SoundCloud for storage at the time. And I probably don't even have them now. or they might be somewhere, but I probably wouldn't want to go back to them. But we did Hardcore Education, which was a remix of Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall, and it sounded like this.
We don't need no education. Chasm. TSD.
It's all right. Like you can tell I've improved, but I think that was about it. And then we sort of actually, sorry, this wasn't Noble and Hoodie. This was actually just me on my own. So I think this was one of my first. Like I don't think it was my first solo production. Because, like I say, I think I put another. I think I did another 2 tracks. One was Speed Up, and the other was At Night. And I think they're not there anymore on here. So I think this was when I'd started going solo. Because me and Hoodie, we did a couple of other tracks as well. We did Got to Turn Around. That was another one we did, which was a remix of Fats and Smalls Turn Around. And then I think we was also working on another track as well. I think Hot Right Now or something like that. And we never finished it. And then obviously I stopped working with him. And then there became kind of like this Noble and Prime era, where I experimented with a couple of Power Stomp tracks. And to be fair, these actually weren't that bad. These were actually really nice, and I really liked these, and I liked the idea of them, and I think they still sound pretty banging now. This was kind of like when I was like really starting to improve. So
Doing drugs, selling drugs. Doing drugs. Selling drugs. I know kids that are 15, 16 years old. They can multiply $100 into 5.
So yeah, this was a track called Doing Drugs, Selling Drugs, and I found like a vocal sample of like a woman doing an interview about kids taking drugs. And then I took a melody sample from a track from Hardwell called Spaceman, and it had a really nice sort of like melody sound, so I just put made it sound a little bit more ravey and power stomped it up.
$1,000 in less than full driving drugs, doing drugs, selling drugs.
So that was that, and then we did Disco Revenge, which was again, and at this point I'd experimented with changing like artwork for banging anthems. So if you sort of look down, so this was kind of the era where we had the old artwork, and then I updated like with this new stuff, which kind of looked like this. And we changed our logo as well, and then we kind of went to these, and then I sort of at this point up from here I gave up on banging anthems. So yeah, so the second one myself and Prime did was Disco Revenge. So you'll recognise the sample because it is Disco Revenge. So I'm not too keen on the melody sound. And I went into like a real sort of like hard gabba sound on this.
DJ, give me a fat beat!
Yeah. And then I went solo and did a remix of the Utah Saints, Something Good. And this was kind of when I was sort of looking into the sample of it, and I was talking to a friend of mine at the time, a woman, and I said, you know, do you reckon I could make a remix of it? And she said, yeah, you could do it. So I did. And at this point, I'd learned like more about timing vocals up and making things sound a little bit better. Still need something under the piano. And the reason what inspired me to want to make it as well is that I found a bass loop in a sample pack, and it reminded me of Something Good as well, which kind of thought, yeah, I'm doing it. And then we had this era where I experimented with taking some type beats off of YouTube and seeing if I could put like just mash up some vocals on them. So I did some like really weird stuff, like some real like sort of like chilled out disco tunes, and I did some like real weird stuff, like this one. So I experimented, and there was this one as well.
Got me hurting 'cause I'm wanting you, and you're leaving me. Said you need more space. If it makes your life much easier, your love I'll share. Just tell me that you'll stay, 'cause you can't go, not just yet. Want you close by my side. When love's this good, it's hard to find. Know that I love you, and you're always in my life. Want you in my life.
Yeah, so there was kind of all this era, and I reattempted Speed Up as well under a Deep Love remix.
Try to keep up with me, 'cause I can give you some. All the loving you need, I'll give you such a rush. Baby, step up your game, keep up with my pace.
Do you know what? That has just really made me want to go and listen to the original Funkerman Speed Up now. That was an absolute tune, and it has also reminded me that I need to buy that on vinyl as well. That is a record and a half that is actually missing from my currently packed away record collection. I will be buying that at some point. That is really literally, yeah, I need that. And then I experimented with Deepest Blue. Deepest Blue.
I've been watching me. What you gonna do?
So yeah, they were just like weird little type beats, and I just downloaded them, made some adjustments, and put some vocals on them.
Sun will always shine on you. You turn my ocean deepest blue. I never hide my thoughts from you. You're my deepest blue. I'm dreaming now, walking on the moon, and I don't know how
So vocal didn't sound that good. And then we had the George Schmid era, and like where I sort of took like some Scouse tunes and sped them up and sort of added some different vibes to them, which is this.
For me, where can take my
So this is where I was like really starting to improve. This is where at this point I was kind of like trying to take the music production more seriously, and I was putting stuff out on Layman Productions by this point. You know, we did the Come Running and stuff as well. And I remember sending this to Layman one day and saying, look, I've done a little sort of like speed up edit of this George Schmid wifey. He had a listen and he actually fell in love with it, and he was like, do you know what, I actually really like this. And then I also did the Raindrops. I just sped up the Hypersonic remix and again added a few little things to it, added some different sounds in there. And then I attempted a couple of like sort of like D&B sort of style tracks, and then we come to the bounce era. So I'm going to skip the D&B era because it's not, you know, I did a couple of tracks and they're good. You know, the Rain one is actually going to come out on Layman Productions, but it's going to come out under an alias, so because I'm not going to put it under Noble anymore. But then we come to the bounce era, so we've got the original Lonely Sex Shooter. I've just redone this. And then we've got The Lover That You Are. I did a Last Christmas and then Sweet Harmony on My Mind. And then we come to the Kicking Hard Legacy. We've got Put the Mic On. We've got Love Generation. And we've got some mixes and stuff. And then we've got like Breathe Slow. And this is where everything Rain Over Me. This is where it all sort of started coming together. This is where everything started to, obviously, you know, we got the sounds of Noble at this point coming in. This is when I was like 2022 to 2023 showcase. So this is where I was really pushing, trying to put myself out there now. Like, you know, I want to start taking this more seriously and improving and trying to reach out to labels. And then, you know, we have like more stuff coming up at Vinyl Mix and Donk Mixes and Old School House Mix that I remember finding that. So I found that on my on some Google Drive, I think, and promo mixes, and then sort of moving all the way up. So good time coming to. So when I started getting signed, and then obviously we've got like Sound of Noble Volume 2. And then there was some other track samples. So when I started getting signed to Excite and stuff like that, and then sort of moving up to the present day, sort of from that end. So there's a lot of tunes that sort of from Sounds of Noble Volume 1 and Volume 2 that I think they just need a little bit of tweaking, but the computer, it crashed and I lost a lot of the project files for them. So I was a little bit gutted, regarding them. And now I'm just kind of moving on with some of them, but there's like some of them that I'm trying to like go back and I'm trying to like have a listen to them and kind of like see like would this actually be good enough to submit to release. So the I've Got a Hangover, that one came out and that was like part of some of the old tracks, and I submitted that one just before the computer crashed, and that kind of was good enough to go out. So there were some other ones I was doing, like When I'm Not With You, and it was just a shame that obviously it's obviously not working anymore in that sense. So so obviously the production journey, we've come a very, very long way from the production side, and it just shows that like 2019 I started producing. That's when late 2019 was when I first started producing, and it took me until 2023, and it was early on 2023. It was sort of I can't remember like fully when it was. I'm just trying to. I'd been somewhere on a train, and I'm trying to remember where it was. But I'd been somewhere, and I'd come back, and anyway, cutting the story short, I came back and I told Lehman, look, I've been signed to the bounce call, and he was a little unsure at first because that's just how he is. He's got the best interest at heart, and he just obviously he wants the right things for me, and he knows obviously if he thinks I'm making a bad choice, he'll tell me and warn me, and then obviously it's up to me whether I decide to take that choice or take that chance, and and he knows I'll find out down the line anyway. He's just obviously saying what he thinks, and stuff like that, and sometimes you've got to let people do things for themselves to find out. So I took a short journey with Bounce Core Records. I had 3 releases. The label has now been shut down, but I just obviously now can no longer release with them because the label got shut down, and they went a little bit funny. And just sadly, what I thought was going to be the start of something quite good, sadly quickly came to an end, but it was replaced with, getting signed to Excite. So I do believe that getting signed to Bounce Core was a good move, because it was definitely a good way to get just a couple of releases out there for people to see, and people to sort of start realizing like this guy's kind of a bit more serious than just someone who's having a play around on FL Studio. And I think that's kind of what scoped the sort of like Excite to say, well, look, we see you releasing, send us something, and if we like it, we'll put it out. And that was kind of where it went from there. So I do believe that the bounce core had to happen for the kind of like the next thing, or the next step to happen, if you like, because obviously if I hadn't have done, I'd have probably still just been making stuff and it was never and it was never really going anywhere, if that makes sense. So that was obviously something that just had to obviously happen. I do believe, and then I started working on the Played Alive, and that was kind of boom, send that to Excite, and they obviously they obviously put that out. So what's been the highlight of this kind of like production journey? What's been the highlight of it? Because obviously, it's been a good while, and I've done, like I say, we've kind of gone from sort of like the end of 2019, sort of up to the present day, with I've Got a Hangover being released just yesterday. So I guess some of the highlights is like obviously getting them first releases, but kind of like what the buzz to me is I love the fact that I can go onto SoundCloud and I can go and listen to my first ever track, and to me that is a buzz, because a lot of people will say like where do you a lot of people get interviewed and they say like what was your first ever track, in that sense, and a lot of people's like answers, they're obviously like oh, I can remember what it was, but it sounds absolutely terrible, and I don't even have it anymore, and I just think like it's so good to look back at like progress, and to look back at like like your own progress, and like to be able to say people, well, look, this is where I started, and look how bad this sounds compared to what I'm making now. Because people like listen to like pros, and people like Darren Styles, and Gamma's a good example. Like he's been making bangers for years, but I'm sure there would have been like a point in Gamma's career where he would have sounded absolutely like shocking, where labels would have gone like, like we wouldn't release that in a million years, to the point where now, he's got releases on some of the biggest labels. He's ran his own record labels, and he's had tracks that have gone viral, and kind of made Gamma what he is today. You've got the whole Dougal and Gamma era, which was somewhat magical within it, within itself, and then Gamma kind of sort of left the hardcore scene and kind of moved on to, I guess, even higher things, and started making big sort of like dubstep rave anthems, and going into some like hard style kind of stuff, and I get kind of still sticking to some hardcore elements as well, but kind of really experimenting with like new sounds, and kind of stepping away from that kind of HDID sort of clubland sort of hardcore sort of era, and sort of moved it up to like everybody was sort of like ranting and buzzing over like the Tweaker Core and stuff like that, and Darren Styles and Gamma, they all kind of, in a lot of sense, they left the sort of UK hardcore sort of behind and went into sort of what was this more like modern happy hardcore, but kind of went into these like other sort of like genres as well, where like it was played at 160, and there was hard style elements in it, and there was like reverse bass elements in it, but like going back to it, like they was all at that point at one time where they didn't sound that good, where they really did not sound that good, like they'd sound like, like my first track did, and then there's times where they obviously, they just learn, and they've just improved over the years, and they've worked with different musicians, and obviously Darren Styles has, he's collaborated with a lot of people. He's collaborated with a lot of people himself over the years, and he's obviously picked tips up on the way other people work and the way other people arrange things, and and it all just obviously helps and adds up. So obviously going forward, the plan is to release some more music, and to obviously keep going on the production side of things. I think the plan of the stream kind of changed a little bit. We went sort of more down memory lane. I think the original idea of the stream was to go back and listen to some of the recent donk tracks I'd made before the PC crashed, and then kind of, would we release this? But it's good to go down memory lane, and we've done that today. And it's taken me right back to when I first did I Found You with freestyle, to kind of, we've got these tunes that are now out on Excite Digital, so that's obviously good. So that's going to do it for the stream. Let me know what songs of mine that you've heard do you actually like. I mean, we also put the Your Shine in. We put that out as a free download. That was obviously that came out as a free download, which is just here. And then High Hopes, that just released recently. I've Got a Hangover, that actually came out yesterday, so I actually need to edit that. Probably take that. And then I'll just out, not even on caps, out now. Excite. That'll do. Obviously it is out now. And then I think I need to do the same with High Hopes. Oh no, that says out now as well. So yeah, and then this was obviously a free download. Yeah, great tune, that. Love that. And then there's new ones. I did a For the Love of Core. So that was a hardcore set that I did the other day. And then I've been doing these This Is How We Donk mixed series as well. When did I put the number? So number 3, that was 15 days ago. So I'll probably, when I get a couple more tunes, I'll probably start working on number 4, adding some of my newer production in as well. And I'll show you something. I'll play you something briefly before we leave as well. Something brand new that I've been working on. Well, there's 2 tracks. One of them is not ready to play you yet. It's a solid track, and I had a bad vocal, and I got somebody to re-sing it, and they re-sang it, and it just doesn't sound that good, to be honest. Like, they haven't really sang it that well. The more I like kind of listen to it, and I listen to it like in other different environments, so I'm going to try and work with it a little bit more. But I've also been working on this, and before I do let it play, I'm just going to change the screen so you're not stuck on the SoundCloud screen. Not File Explorer, it's this one. There we go. Yeah, so this is called Part of Me. It's a remix of Katy Perry, Part of Me. Have a listen to this. Yeah, so that's that one that I'm currently working on at the moment. I think I've just got to sort 1 or 2 things out with the bass. It just sounds a little bit I don't know, I think the bass just comes in a little bit too loud. I've just got to sort the level of the bass out and sort of try and make it sound like it fits the track a bit more, rather than just like a loud bass sound on top of everything else. But I'm still sort of playing around, but you get the general idea. And yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. So yeah, that's going to do it for the stream anyway. we've had a hell of a production journey, and it obviously doesn't stop. It continues as my brain is still full of ideas. I've still got projects that I'm finishing up. I've still got stuff that I want to work on, and ideas that I want to bring to life as well. A collab on a track called My Head is a Jungle. That is definitely one for the one to get stuck into as well. And another project called Show Me the Way. That is another tune that I want to work on as well, and just try and have a go at that, and just sort of see where things go, and take things as they come. So make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to share all of that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.